After many years without it, the Toronto Raptors are finally entering an offseason in which they have complete control of all of their draft capital. So when players like, let's say, Giannis Antetokounmpo potentially become available, they have the opportunity to pull off a massive trade. So let's speculate if this trade could happen and what it might look like. Let's get into it. And when I say draft capital, I mean first round draft capital, but we'll go into a little bit more of that in just a second here because this is Amateur Sports. It's a YouTube channel dedicated completely to giving you Toronto Raptors content. Drop a like if you enjoy, subscribe for more content just like it, and just speculate with me here for a second because Giannis Antetokounmpo's offseason is going to be full of uncertainty because the Milwaukee Bucks have just been eliminated from the NBA playoffs, obviously in pretty heartbreaking, choky sort of fashion. They're up 118-111 against the Indiana Pacers with about 40 seconds to go. Costly turnovers from Gary Trent Jr. gave the Pacers opportunities, which they seized and ended up winning 119-118 to win this series in 5 games. But even if the Bucks had gotten through that game, they probably still lose the series. They somehow come back from 3-1 down. They very, very likely lose in the second round of the playoffs. It was a tough season for the Milwaukee Bucks. And it's about to be a tough offseason for the Bucks because this is a team that has essentially no control whatsoever of their draft capital. And I mean like first and second round draft capital for them. No up-and-coming prospects to supplement the team. Damian Lillard, it's heartbreaking. He came back early from the blood clot issue, which is fantastic. Not early, but like faster than expected. And then tears his Achilles. He's likely to miss the entirety of next season. This Milwaukee Bucks team is in a very, very complicated position. And Giannis Antetokounmpo is still, and he showed it in that series against the Indiana Pacers. Giannis Antetokounmpo showcased that he is still one of the very, very best players in the NBA, and throughout the season showcased that he can still be in MVP conversations as well at 30 years old. So, little bit of a crossroads situation. The Bucks seemingly are heading in the wrong direction. Giannis may still want to fight for contention, fight for an NBA championship, and he may not be able to do that with the Milwaukee Bucks. Is there a possibility that he looks for a way out in the offseason? I think absolutely there is. If he's looking for a way out, is there a possibility the Raptors are the team that makes that trade? Absolutely there is. Let's investigate further. So the Giannis situation is as such. He's signed an extension somewhat recently, so he's on the books. It's not a free agent situation. Giannis Antetokounmpo is on a contract that is going to last another 3 years. The estimate is that he'd be making about $54 million for next season, $58 million for the season after that, and then $62.7 million on a team option in his age 33 season in 2027, 2028. And I know that Giannis's play style is heavily reliant on his athleticism and not as much as like I hate to use the word skill because like that's a bit of a broad term. Giannis is a very skilled player and uses his attributes very, very well, but like hopefully you understand what I mean. It's reliant on his athleticism more so than anything. So as he creeps up more and more into his 30s, we'll wonder when that athleticism starts to desert him a little bit. But Giannis, like I said, very clearly still MVP caliber, and nothing suggests that is going to be going away next season or the year after that, or maybe even the year after that. So you're getting an MVP caliber player for those 3 years, potentially 4 more if you can re-sign the player beyond that. But like 2 + 1 years of Giannis seems very, very tempting for a team to take on if the player does ask out. But there's going to be a catalog of teams that would obviously look to get a player like Giannis if he's asking for a trade. Houston Rockets have a ton of draft capital, but the Raptors do as well. So what exactly would this trade have to look like? Well, for the Raptors, there's a couple of ways to go about this. So Giannis is like, this is like a king's ransom sort of trade. This isn't Luka Doncic, it's Anthony Davis and you're not getting the picks. Like you're giving away at least 3 first-round picks and swaps or 4 first-round picks and swaps. And I think there's a couple of ways the Raptors can go about this. So if they wanted to add Giannis on top of Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, like the guy who has to be in this trade, financially speaking, is RJ Barrett. And logistically, like, there's too many guys in the room here. There's too many mouths to feed with RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett is the player that has to be in this trade if it does happen. If they're going to balance out the salaries It would be RJ Barrett, it'd be Emmanuel Quickley, and it'd be the 4 first-round picks and the 2 swaps. This is what it would cost. This is what the trade would have to look like, seemingly, to get Giannis Antetokounmpo. If you're holding on to Scottie Barnes, it would absolutely have to be 4 first-round picks. And even at this trade here, I'm not 100% the Bucks would take it. Giannis would be like having to force his way out and would probably have to choose Toronto as his destination for this trade to happen. But like as of right now, let me know in the comments what you think of this trade here. But let's go to a different trade. Now, depending on your opinion of Scottie Barnes, you could love this, you could hate this, but I think there's a possibility if it's Scottie Barnes instead of Emmanuel Quickley, you might be able to make this trade happen with only 3 first-round picks. And if it's only 3 first-round picks, maybe you can keep a hold of your current 2025 first-round pick, which is somewhere in the range of, 7 or 8 in the draft, potentially going up to the top 4 based on how it turns out in the draft lottery. So I don't know if the Bucks would do that because they're not getting the 2025 pick that is like a guaranteed lottery pick and a guaranteed very good lottery pick at that. But I think you could get away with just the 3 first-round picks and 2 swaps if it's Scottie Barnes alongside RJ Barrett. But it's a lot for the Raptors to give up looking at it. But it is Giannis Antetokounmpo at the end of the day. So let's say they can get away with it without Barnes. All of a sudden the lineup is Giannis Antetokounmpo, Scottie Barnes, Brandon Ingram, Jakob Poeltl. You've got to find a point guard somewhere. Maybe, with another trade, maybe as a free agent signing, maybe you just want like a facilitating point. You don't need like an outstanding point guard here. You would need one who absolutely can shoot, which maybe provides some difficulty, but like there's ways you can make it work out. There's just too much talent on that team. On the other hand, if you move RJ Barrett, Scottie Barnes, now you've got your point guard, you've got Emmanuel Quickley, Giannis, Brandon Ingram, Jakob Poeltl, then maybe you could slide up somebody like Grady Dick into the starting lineup once again, or Jacoby Walter, whatever it is. Maybe you can find just a guy who's just a fifth man, 3-point shooter, doesn't really do much else to put in your starting 5. Like that could work as well. That would be a great offensive team, a great defensive team. Like that is an absolute stonewall contender. And as a result, it's very, very tempting for the Raptors to make a move like this. For me, if a player of Giannis's caliber becomes available, oh my goodness, like I'm probably prepared to make a drastic trade like this. This is Giannis Antetokounmpo. You let me know if you would make that trade, if you would go all out to get Giannis, even if it were to cost you Scottie Barnes, even if it were to cost you RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley. You let me know. But is this something that is possible? Yes. Is this something that is likely? Well, we talked a little bit about this on a recent video I did. One of the Saturday videos. I'm starting to do these Q&A videos on the channel where I react to comments throughout the week, put them in a video, post that on Saturday. So, if you leave your comments, you've got a chance of featuring in that one. So do leave your comments down below. But there was, on the first one I did, a question about Giannis leaving the Bucks. And honestly, at the time, I kind of brushed it off. I laughed. I'm like, I just don't think this is going to happen. My thoughts have kind of changed given the Damian Lillard injury, which has happened in between, because it's going to be extraordinarily difficult for the Bucks to compete next season. Like, what made them somewhat good this season was the fact that they just had Giannis and Dame. They relied on them super heavily for their offense and had enough around them to complement that and to get points in other areas. But without Dame, that team is in trouble for next season. Giannis isn't getting any younger. He might be looking more so at the door. At the end of the day, I would still favor Giannis not leaving the Bucks and staying loyal to the Bucks. He has stayed loyal in the past, and I think he will continue to stay loyal. I would still say it's like comfortably above 60% chance he just stays with the Bucks. But in that, 30-40% chance he does decide to leave, there is definitely like a probability the Raptors are the team that swoops in and makes it happen. I don't want to continue to overrate the relationship Masai Ujiri has with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Obviously, we know that relationship exists from the past. Maybe that plays into it a little bit, but I don't know how much that's going to factor into the decision. Ultimately, yes, it's possible, but I don't think it will happen. If Giannis does decide to leave, though, the Raptors are a major, major player in those sweepstakes. They've got the contracts, they've got the players, and they've got the draft assets to make the trade happen. We'll see what Giannis's decision is if he does want to leave. And if he does want to leave, we'll see if he does elect to go with the Raptors, because, you don't think the players have control in these situations. But we've learned, like, in the last few years, especially when you want to do a star right, and a star like Giannis, who has won the Milwaukee Bucks an NBA championship, maybe they would consider his opinion on the situation very heavily as well.